Welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. Here we'll talk to the leaders in technology, culture, business, and the arts. We'll cover politics, advocacy, motherhood, writing, mental health, and mostly we'll focus on hope. Join Kim B. Davis, author, playwright, radio personality, event consultant, professional speaker on the Kim B. Davis Show.
Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have a special treat for you. We have one of our favorite authors, Camille St.Charles Mississippi, Mrs. Hot and Spicy author herself. She has recently released a new book called Dessert Novella Suites. Listen, y'all, I have taken a gander at this book, and let me just say, I don't necessarily like red velvet cake, but let me tell you, after you read this story, Red Velvet Cake, you're going to want some red velvet cake. That's all I have to say. Good evening, Camille. How are you?
I am doing well, Kimberly, and yourself?
I am great. I'm so excited that you are here and that you're going to talk about your new Dessert Novella Suites with us.
Well, thank you. It's been a labor of love for 10 years. And every encounter in the book is episodic encounters. These are brief little episodes. And I liken the episodes to being in a hotel room, because when you open the door, you never know what's really going on or going to happen. So I call them episodic love encounters. Sweet, so to speak.
And I would definitely agree with that. They were just that. Tell us first off how you were inspired to write this book, and then talk to us about why you included the specific recipes and the stories that coordinate with them.
Well, I was inspired to write I had already written a story, but I wasn't sure what to call it. But my sister had found herself involved in some type of love triangle. She was already in the midst of it. It had nothing to do with me, but she felt comfortable enough to really tell me what was going on. And she had said that the gentleman that she was involved with had a wife, a girlfriend, and he had her. And my sister desired to be the wife. And I told her, I said, sometimes, sweetie, being the wife is overrated. I said, you should, if this is the position you are going to play, because I have nothing to offer you, you already have made your position known. I have no biblical references to offer you. I'm just telling you, you should enjoy this if this is what you're going to do. And I said, you should liken yourself to a dessert. And she said, what? I said, when he shows up to see you, you're already pleasing, you're already presented in your best light, you're accommodating, you're thrilling, and you're something succulent and sweet. I said, you're not worried about what's going on behind the scenes in his life. You could actually care less about his political or religious affiliations. His blood pressure and BMI have nothing to do with you. When he knocks at your door, you already know what he's there for. You, my friend, are dessert. And she said, I never thought about it like that. I said, he knows that he's going to dine on something succulent and delicious, and you are going to address whatever hunger he happens to be entertaining at that moment. You are dessert. And I set out to write her a story to make her aware of what a dessert actually is and what it does. I said, because it's not going to offer you any supplements or any nutritional value. It is only there to please the palate. And that's all you do. I said, because when you pick your own dessert, you're not worried about the caloric intake. And she said, I never gave that any thought. And so I wrote her a story. She shared it with the gentleman. They loved it. And that's where the dessert novellas were born, from a conversation I was having. And I said, well, I can take all the desserts because I'm not a chef. I'm just a naughty storyteller. And I'm going to tell you a racy little story that possibly could take place behind said dessert. So that's where the dessert Novella Suites came from. So
And what was there a specific decision to include certain desserts? Because you have cheesecake, you have red velvet cake, you have bourbon pecan pie. And like I said, I'm not a fan of pecan pie. My mother was, but ooh, this story, woo, let me just say, had me reaching for some bourbon.
well, there was no rhyme or reason, Kimberly. I have 75 dessert novellas.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to go back, and the first ones that I actively sat down and wrote, I decided to go back and feature them because they had been lingering in the wings. They wanted to be put out there, but they had been lingering for 10 years. And when I finally did it, I went and got the first ones. So that's why they are there. And I liken the cookbook to like reading or jumping into a love story, because the first one, the crust from a peach cobbler, for me, that's the best part of the peach cobbler. I don't really care about all of the other stuff on the inside, but if the crust can give me the kiss that I desire, it's on for me. So it was like a love letter. It's like two spirits meeting one another, and the things that they encounter and the things that they enjoy, the kiss, the train ride, a hotel stay, just people meeting back and forth. And some of the people are married, some of them are not, some of them are just strangers passing by one another, and they stop to take a time or a chance and get to know one another, because sometimes we are always in such a hurry. We always have our heads down, reading our laptops, our computers, our phones, and sometimes you miss that spiritual interaction that only two souls can share. Mm-hmm. So I sat there and I wrote about those funny little love entanglements. Some of them are very funny, some of them are very sensual, and some of them are scary. Once you get into it, you've got to read the complete story, because it's like a striptease. It's not going to reveal itself at the very beginning. You have to stay and watch the show. So you have to stay and read the story to allow it to reveal itself to you. And once it's revealed, you have the option to continue on, enjoy the ride, know that it is just an exercise in fantasy, and have some fun. So that's why.
And I love it. I love how you describe peach cobbler, how it was a kiss, or kiss. how it is a kiss. Is there, and this may sound very cliche, but is there really a connection between food and romance?
Yes. Food
Explain.
takes you to those romantic interludes or encounters, because sometimes when you're sitting there daydreaming of, let's say I want a delicious steak that evening, and I've thought about steak all day long. My mind is only on steak. Nothing else that you're going to present to me is going to satisfy the hunger like the steak is going to do. So when I sit down and I dine on my steak, I'm already saying, this is exactly what I wanted. And also I'm already saying, I already know what I want for dessert. I'm already aware of what it is I'd like to just cap it off, because it's like a marriage. They interlink and they join up together where nothing else can get in there. Clothing, shopping, and having fun sometimes with your friends is beautiful. But if it's done right and in the right climate and with the right person, and the universe and the spirits have aligned properly, oh, it's a thing of beauty. It's a thing of beauty. Nothing like it.
And trust me, based on the stories that I have read, it is absolutely a thing of beauty. So I want to talk to you a little bit about your recipes. Are these family recipes? Are these recipes that you have collected that you are sharing? Are these recipes that you have tried out yourself?
I am not a chef. So I had to acknowledge that aspect of myself because I'm a cooker. I can make you some greens and cornbread. I can make you a steak. I can do the beans and the neck bones. But as far as making desserts per se, I'm not that chick. So I had to partner up with a chef. His name is Chef Jamie. He's in Texas. So these are his desserts.
Okay.
I just told him the name of each story, and I felt as if I needed the desserts and the picture of the dessert to introduce the story. So it was a merger together. So you got to see the beautiful dessert, you got to turn the page, and you got to experience and encounter the recipe. Then you got to go to the next page and the story unfolds. This is just a naughty little story that could be behind that recipe. It's a possibility. It's a naughty little episode. Yeah.
So, and I love it because that is exactly what it is. So, one of the stories that really interested me, I believe it's the Bourbon Pecan Pie. That's that's the Christmas one where she goes home and finds out her family is gone. So, and when you said these things don't happen to me, in the story when the character is saying this, I'm like, yeah, I don't know anybody that this happens to. I said, you know what? This is fun reading this right now. Do you ever feel that when you're writing romance that there's a line that you cross, that there are boundaries, that there are no boundaries?
There is a line sometimes, because actually when I am dreaming up these stories, I have to actually see them reveal themselves in my head, like a movie is being played, and I can see this. And if it seems possible and in the realm of possibility, I can write it down. Sometimes I am not as experienced as I would hope to be, and I have to ask some of my family members and friends to tell me of some situations or some encounters that you've had. So I can glean from those little stories some of the, select pickings and merge it inside of a story. But it's a rarity that I do that. But some things are just off limits because I write like I like to read. So if I am enjoying writing it, I hope that everybody is enjoying reading it. So that's how I write. That's how my mind goes. Sometimes it's demented.
It's not demented. It's excellent. It's just when I read one of your stories, I can see it in my head. I can see every detail. I can smell the scents that you're talking about. But one of the things that I noticed throughout the few stories that I have read, because I still have some more to read, but there was an empowerment that I sensed in all of the women in taking control of their own pleasure, their own sensuality, their own desires and needs. Camille, we are still in a pandemic, and I know we're all crossing our fingers and our toes and hoping that we're going to come out soon. And surely we all do. But many women across this country who are exhausted as mothers, who've had to be teachers this year, who are working, taking care of homes, have all of these responsibilities on them, are feeling a bit out of sorts. What would you say to those women, specifically in terms of getting your book?
If you want something delicious to dine upon mentally, and something that's going to offer you some fun, because it is female empowerment. 95% of the women in the story are in control. They are the ones who are knocking on the door or who are opening the door or even opening themselves up to have an exchange. There's one story where things can spin somewhat out of control, but those are far and few between. But that's just how the story unfolded as I was imagining it. But the majority of the women, they be like, I like this guy. I like what he's saying. I'm not dead. I still have my own desires. And sometimes we as women put our desires like ourselves. We've been placed up on a shelf, and we're just there for presentation. Mm-hmm. We are just there to look pretty and answer an occasional question here and there, but nobody actually cozies up next to us and say, hey, so what's going on in your world? Mm-hmm. How do you feel about such? We're bombarded with everybody telling us what to do and what to think and how to feel. When a woman takes possession of herself and say, I like this young looking guy. I'm not asking for a lifetime plan. I just want some fun before fun can no longer be had. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there revisiting some situations from my past, and all I have is, well, I've been in love, but I've just been sitting here waiting. I've been waiting to be shown love. I've been waiting to experience love. I've just been waiting. So these women have taken themselves off the shelf. Like, put me in, coach. Put me in the game. It doesn't always have to be, and I love men. Oh my God, I love men. But everything is not always about a man. Mm-hmm. It's about a woman making the decision, because 90% of the encounters that happen, it's always the woman that has already made the decision in her mind before she even allows the guy to know what she's calculating and thinking. Mm-hmm. She's already entertained the thought. She's already given homage to what's going on in her life, and she has no shame to offer anyone. She's like, listen, before things actually stop working, put me on the field one more time. Let me win the race for the team one more time. Just put me in, coach. Put me in. I still got some life in this old body of mine. You know, what's that old adage? There's snow on the roof, but there's fire down below.
Yeah.
Yes, snow on the roof. And the majority of the women are not young girls. They're just middle-aged women that happen to be at a particular place at a particular time, and someone said something. It could be a word or a statement or however they say it. That's the key that unlocks that particular door, because we've become familiar with staying and being put on the shelf and be like, oh, I know my place. I know how far I can roam. But these women have taken themselves off the shelf and they're desiring to be put in rotation. So put me in, coach. I'm ready to play.
And definitely all of your characters in Dessert Novella Suites are definitely ready to play, and they have a ball. Let me just say that they do. But along with this book, you also have this dynamic podcast that you do. Talk a little bit about that.
I do a dessert novella podcast where I tell the stories. So you get to experience me speaking to you, and you get to experience aspects of my demented, sometimes a crazy sense of humor, because the strangest things will fascinate and capture my attention. So as I am telling some of the stories, sometimes I'm going off of memory, and then sometimes I have to refer back to my notes because they're so intricate. But I sit there and I laugh at myself, and I laugh at how some of the characters are born and how they show up and just pop out and just start talking. So I do a bi-monthly. I'm supposed to do it monthly. That's what I had told myself, but I do a bi-monthly dessert novella podcast, and I feature desserts that fascinate or ring true to a story for me. And I always put something in there about what goes on in the dessert as far as the ingredients and stuff. That's always laced inside the story. But make no mistake, sex is on the forefront.
Sex is definitely on the menu.
Yes, yes, yes. And you
So-
are going to dine properly when you step into the podcast, or if you pick up my Dessert Novella Suites book and you sit down to read it, because this is just the first one. I have a couple of more in the wings waiting also.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So, do you have a favorite in your dessert novella suite that you would like to read from for us a little bit, if you would like to? So people can get an idea and a taste. I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, you are. Okay. Well, I'm gonna tell you one from memory.
Okay.
It's called Glorious Grasshopper Pie.
Ooh.
It is a lady of the evening who is in California looking out the window, knowing that she's getting ready to be involved in an exchange with her male companion that shows up every month. He's a guy from Asia. He travels all over the world. He's what you call a nose in the perfume department. So perfume arena. He smells and makes sure that all of the fragrances remain the way that they are supposed to. He likes this woman. They have gotten to know one another. And she decided she was going to give him a special treat because they always do the same thing whenever they see each other. And she thought, he's never asked for a certain type of pleasure, but I'm gonna offer it to him anyway. So they finished their first exchange with one another. I'm gonna be very politically correct, sweet and delicate, and I won't say anything inappropriate. But they finish their first exchange with one another. The gentleman goes and takes a shower, and then he comes back and he lies on the bed. The lady in the story, she sees him resting, and she decides at that moment, I'm going to pleasure him. Although he's never asked, I'm going to pleasure him. What man didn't desire to be pleasured? So she pleasured him. His body showed up and hit a touchdown. And he woke up and he was upset with her. He became so upset he started beating her because he could not believe that she did that. And he said, I never asked you to do that. What made you think to do that? And she said, well, what man does not desire to be pleasured? And he said, in my mind and in my eyes, you're a thief. I've never given anyone that pleasure from me. And for you to take it from me, you're a thief. Get your stuff and get out. And he said, you know what? I'm going to leave because I don't want to be anywhere that you've been. He left out of the room. He decided like a month later, he made a mistake because upon hindsight, he enjoyed what she had done to him. So he decided I was going to pursue her back, but the lady was not interested. She was like, no, you showed me your face. You know, you beat me. I have to recover. I'm not interested. So he would write her love letters and send her Birkin bags and send her silk scarves and kimonos and all that other stuff. And this went on for a couple of months. Finally, he was wearing her down. And she decided, okay, I will see you once more, but you can't harm me. You can't touch me. And if I do anything that displeases you, let me know or just leave. Mm-hmm. He showed back up. She was all dolled up, looking gorgeous, and everything was in its place. The food was there, the ambiance. He said, you know what? I'm glad to see you. I've missed you. I brought you some more gifts. He said, but could you do me a favor and could you order me my favorite dessert? And she was like, I've forgotten what your favorite dessert is. He said, grasshopper pie. And he said, I'm going to show you a different way on how to eat it.
Oh.
So he allowed her body to absorb the pie, and he dined on it from her.
Mm-hmm.
And after he had dined on the pie, he said, I want to play a game with you. And she said, okay. He said, for every time you pick up something, I will give you $1,000. And she said, cool. The gentleman said, I'm sorry, I forgot to be more specific. You can't pick these items up with your hand or your mouth. So she began to pick up the items, and she picked all of them up. And then after she had picked them up, she needed to release them. And she found out that they were a precious jewel that he had inserted in her.
Mm.
But not all of the jewels came out.
Uh-oh.
So she found herself at a hospital having the doctor fish out this black pearls. And she said, if my mother could see me now, I would say to her, look, Ma, no hands, grasshopper pie. Because he wanted her to snatch the pebbles from his hands, but the pebbles were black pearls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's where that one happened at.
See, that is just an example, one of the creativity, the spice, and just the wonderful love that you put into your stories that take us on a journey. And even though you didn't give us all the juicy parts,
no, you have to read it, because there's some other encounters and situations that happen inside the story, but I was just giving you the synopsis of it. Sometimes I can be so long-winded because I am a detail-oriented person. And as I write the stories, it's just like I'm standing in the room watching all of this unfold. So you being an active listener and reader, you have to pick up the book and just nibble on all of those delicate little details. And some of them will make you howl out loud, just like you did with the pecan pie. Yeah. Bourbon field pecan pie, that was it. Bourbon field pecan pie.
Yes, and it is a wonderful, wonderful story. Thank you, Camille, for coming on the Kim B. Davis Show. Tell us where we can find Dessert Novella Suites. Tell us where we can hear your podcast. And then you also have your R series. Tell us where you can pick that up as well, and how we can follow you on social media.
Well, you can follow me on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I have not begun TikTok yet because I'm challenged sometimes in the arena for our high-tech stuff. I just don't get it. So be patient with me. You can reach me at therseries.com because all of my Roxanne books have their own website. And I just officially launched my website for Camille St.Charles Mississippi.com. So you can go there and every book is there. And even the Dessert Novella Suites, it has its own little button or little tab. You can press it and it will direct you. It'll send you to Amazon and you can secure a copy for yourself.
Wonderful.
And for my podcast, if you make it to my my social media pages, all of my dessert podcasts are listed somewhere on that page. But I'm going to send you the information so you can post it so everybody can just go there, hear me tell a naughty little story, or to read what's going on behind the scenes in the world of Camille St. Charles, Mississippi. to step into the world of Roxanne, the R series, because I have another Roxanne book coming out, and or to hear me tell you a naughty little story, and get yourself together because I am going to do Instagram reels. I am going to set up Instagram and be telling little snippets from my story. So you'll get an opportunity to see me tell you a naughty little story. And you'll catch me sometimes as I lose track of what's going on and how I'm laughing hysterically behind some of the situations in the stories because they read true to me. So you can contact me there and flip into the world of Camille St. Charles, Mississippi, and to dine on something from my dessert Novella Suites, dine on something succulent and delicious. I thank you so much for your support, Kimberly, and I was so thrilled that you got the book in such a timely fashion.
Yes. And you autographed it for me as well. So, you know, I was so thankful for that. As I'm sitting here and I'm reading and I'm like, ooh, I need some chocolate. I love chocolate. So I don't know if there's a chocolate recipe in here, but I don't think I've gotten to that yet. But you got to write a chocolate story for me.
I have several chocolate, and if you go to my podcast, there is one of my favorite podcasts. It's called French Chocolate Cake. And the story is phenomenal. I love it. It's just, I wrote it and I put it on the podcast last year, and I had so many to pick from. I went back to the front of the line, and that wasn't one of the first stories. So eventually it'll be in a dessert novella cookbook also. But for right now, if you just want to hear it, called French Chocolate Cake. And, you know, the podcast that I did a month or so ago called Hot Fudge Sunday, that's got chocolate in it.
Mm-hmm.
And the dessert I did last week called Rocky Road Cupcakes.
Ooh.
I think I sent that to you. I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity to listen to it.
I haven't had an opportunity to listen to it, but I got to go back and listen to that. So I have a suggestion because I also like coffee ice cream. So think about maybe coffee and Heath. That's my request.
Well, I told you the last time we spoke, I wrote some coffee fairy tales, and we are still working on those also. So that's coming too. But I love Heath bars also.
Exactly. They're
love them. Love them.
I'm excited to see what character comes out of a Heath bar.
Well, hey, his name is probably gonna be Heath. I'm not sure. You never know. Stranger things have happened.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Camille, for coming on and for sharing the dessert Novella Suites. We are enjoying this book, and the podcast is wonderful. We're going to make sure that we post all of your information. And when the Coffee Fairy Tales comes and you're ready to do your Instagram reels, I hope that you will come back and talk to us about that as well.
Definitely. I'm somewhat apprehensive of the Instagram reels because I just never gave it any thought. I started writing just to write. I never thought about my presentation, you know, me. Because when you do that, you have to be ready.
Yes.
You can't really refer to too many notes because it's so swift. And I know all of my stories. I give you a streamlined version of it. But when you read it, or as I read it to you, I hope you can see it unfolding right before your eyes.
Well, you have done an amazing job on your podcast. So I have faith that you're going to do exceptionally well on Instagram Reels. And it will be hot and spicy, just like the Dessert Novella Suites and the podcast. And I look forward to listening to the Rocky Road Fudge and the fairy tale, or what is it, the chocolate cake? What was
French chocolate cake. Just scroll down and you will see it, because every offering to the podcast has a picture of the dessert, but it tells you what the title is, and it's titled French Chocolate Cake. And you won't see it coming the way it shows up. I mean that.
So listen, guys, you will not be disappointed. So tell us how we find your podcast again, Camille.
I'm going to send you the link because it is called Dessert Novellas at Libsyn.com. It's got its own link, but I'm going to send it to you so you can post it. But you can go to my Camille St. Charles, Mississippi website, and the link is on there also.
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Camille, for coming on the Kim B. Davis Show. We so appreciate you for coming on and talking to us about how to be the dessert and how to enjoy dessert in a hot and spicy way.
Well, thank you. I so appreciate it. And you were one of the first people I thought of when I released this book. I said, oh my God, I've got to contact Kimberly and see if she can talk with me about my book. So yes. I thank you for the follow through.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Kim B. Davis Show. You know, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok at Kimberly Batchelor Davis. Bachelor is spelled BATCHELOR. You can find this show on youtube.com/Kimberly Batchelor Davis. You can also listen to this show on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google. You can learn more about me as an author at kimbdavis.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that you'll join us on our next episode. And as always, remember, be magnificent.
Thank you.
Thank you.